Hi, I'm Lee.
And I'm Mariela. And today we're going to show you how we install the MaxxAir fan in our van.
It's the 7000 model, which is the same as the 7500. The 7000 is white, the 7500 is smoke. It comes with the remote control, 10-speed, reversible, and will automatically open and close, and thermostat.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to show you how we do it.
Ordered a bracket or a spacer or template, whatever you want to call it, from DIY Vans. You can find them online. It's really nice because it's got the cutouts that fit the grooves for whatever van you're working on. So when you set this on top of the roof, it's already grooved out and you don't have big spaces on the fan. I placed this up here, centered it, got it exactly where I wanted it, and marked the outline. I'm going to make a couple of holes down here, then go up on the roof and recenter it. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, I just cut a little cup, shorter than my drill bit. I'm going to do this so that the metal shavings come down into here. I'm going to go to my corner. Okay, I found the hole that I made from the bottom. I've centered up the template or the spacer on top. As you can see, it's cut out perfectly to fit this placement on the Sprinter van. This company does have other ones made for other locations or without the little grooves in it. Now I'm going to take and mark this off and cut a hole in the van. I've run some tape along the outside edge, leaving just about a 1/4 inch, give or take a little bit, past the spacer. That's going to serve a couple of purposes. First one is to keep the jigsaw from scratching anything. And second purpose is once I start laying the silicone, it will not be as hard to clean up. Anything that gets over here, I can just pull the tape up and get rid of the silicone. So now comes the scary part. We get to cut the hole in the van. I've taken the MaxxAir fan box and just cut the top off. I'm going to place it around where I'm cutting on the roof and tape it to the roof. Hopefully it stays. That will allow any of the metal shavings to fall into the box and not into the van, making cleanup a lot easier. Perfect.
Perfect.
That's what we need right there. Okay, test fit done. Going to use a little acetone to make sure this is nice and clean. Then I'm going to file it down, make sure the edge is smooth, prime it, seal it. I just want to clean it off before I start doing any of that, now that I know the test fit works. I've spoken about this stuff before. We're not sponsored or anything, but Zero Rust. It's really good. Goes directly on rust or used as a primer. I buy it by the spray can. Spray some into a cup. Use a little foam brush and coat these edges really well to prevent rust. I'll do 2 coats of this just to make sure I get a good coverage on it. I try to lay it on pretty thick. I've finished with the primer and the Zero Rust. Put it all the way around. I'm going to take some very, very fine sandpaper and just scuff the edges where the trim ring is going to go. So just underneath. That way when I glue it down, I'll have good adhesion. I'm not going to remove any paint. Just going to lightly scuff the edges just for adhesion. Actually, I want to make sure I don't remove the paint, or else I have to start over with the primer. Then once I get that done, I'll take my acetone and clean up the area again. Making sure to get all the dust, dirt, anything that might prevent good adhesion. Just making sure it's nice and clean. We've got this all scuffed out, got it primed. Going to set the spacer in. Notice how it's cut out right where the ridge is. This one's made specifically for the Sprinter in this location. We're going to set the base for the fan in with these screws on the side. Do not want them front to back. You want to make sure they're side to side. Now what I'm going to do is pre-drill a couple of little holes before I run the screws in. Okay, I've pre-drilled the front and the back, ran my screws in, everything's in place. The seal, template, spacer, and the frame from MaxxAir. Now I'm going to take my drill and pre-drill all these holes all the way around. Take everything apart and put some primer and sealant on each one of the holes before I come back to the next step. Primer's dry. Going to affix this to the van with 3M window well. Cut a pretty good angle here. I'm going to lay a nice thick bead all the way around. Set this into place. Set this on top and my framing underneath. Clamp it and screw it all together. So that's what we're doing now. Down in the window well. I want to make sure it's oozing out a little bit all the way around. If not, I'm going to pull it up and add a little more, which I'm sure I need to do now. As I'm looking at it, need to lay a little thicker bead.
So laying a thicker bead.
You can see a couple spots that didn't connect. Test fit number 2. Oh yeah, nice and thick. Once it's clamped together, it'll probably ooze out the edge. I'll have to wipe it down, but that's good. I want to make sure got a good seal. Just making sure it fits. I'll run a bead on the edge of this. This is a messy job if you're not careful. Now we have to put the frame in from underneath and clamp everything together.
Do I need to hold it?
Yes.
Maylene is gonna hold the frame.
Ahí está bien.
Sí. Ahí creo que está perfecto.
Got everything sealed. Ran the screws through the trim ring, through the spacer, and into the wood block framing that I put down from below. So everything's sandwiched nice and tight. Have the window weld, have a thick bead between the spacer and the van, and a thin bead, but a solid bead all the way around between the flange and the spacer. Now I'm going to put some lap sealant over top of the screws, the spacer, and all the way down on the van. The best way to do this is to heat this up a little bit, make sure it's nice and warm, because it flows a little better. I've already cut the angle on this one. Now I'm going to heat it up a little bit. Don't want to try to melt it, make it too hot, just a little bit. Makes it flow a lot smoother. Okay, we have the self-leveling sealant. Put a couple layers on, let it sit, came back and did a couple little touch-ups. I think this is a case where a little extra won't hurt, so used about a tube and a half. Now here's the fan. To install the fan, you have to run a couple screws through these holes into there, but you have to open the fan to get access to those. So you just use the manual lever to open them. Now the hood part here goes back towards the rear of the vehicle. Make sure you take the wires out first, or you're going to have a hard time getting them out later. That looks like it went together pretty easy. Okay, getting the last screw in. I realized after I put the fan on that the little clips were low and I couldn't get the screws and the clips to line up. So I took the fan off, raised the clips to the highest point that it was still clear and everything lined up. Still had to push down a little bit. Didn't want to push up here and break the fan. So I just kind of pushed like this to get it to line up and to get it to press into the foam seal that runs all the way around. You can see I hit the sealant a little bit, but it's okay. Now I'm just going to check, make sure all the screws are snug all the way around. Then comes the final unveiling. Now we are officially installed, minus the electrical connection. This trim piece will slide right up into here once we do our framing. You'll just have to take a hacksaw and cut it at whatever height finishes your van out once the finish is done. Black is positive. Normally in automotive situations, black is ground. But here, black is positive, white is ground. Temporarily hooked it up just because we want to test it. Remember, black is positive. And we open and close here. There we go. Fan seems to be working. Well, that's another project to be able to be checked off. Don't forget, if you like what you saw, like, subscribe. Please make comments. We love it when we hear from people.